right, everybody, welcome to another Keymaster episode. I'm Sven Rajala, and I've got our guest
Fredrik Skogman from GitHub
here again. And today we're going to talk about SLSA, which is the, correct me if I'm wrong again, the supply chain levels of software artifacts.
There we got it.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I know you deal a lot with SLSA at the GitHub side. Tell me about what SLSA is.
Yeah. So SLSA is a big project within the OpenSSF Foundation, and it's centered around the threat models for your software artifacts, which you can hear from the name. So within the framework, what they're doing is that they're kind of showing off a typical threat model for a typical build system, and kind of talking about the different threats and what are the potential mitigations for them. So within SLSA, there are a lot of tracks that kind of drills deeper into a specific area. So as an example, we are working very much with the SLSA track for securing a build system. And the main kind of thing about that is that SLSA dictates certain levels, which you can hear from the name.
I think there's levels, because I've heard like level 1, level
exactly.
2, level 3.
Exactly.
And as you go up higher in the level, it's more stringent about being more automated, less users involved for room of error like that, right?
And also, of course, like climbing the ladder, puts more pressure on your environment. Like it has to be hardened, you need to have proper isolation and so on. So it's really good because it kind of gives you an easy sort of task list of like, here are the things I need to achieve or here are the things I need to do to achieve this level. So it's very good. Like if you're starting out somewhere, you got like maybe SLSA level 0, and then okay, to reach SLSA level 1, here are the things I need to fix. So it's kind of easy go to kind of improve your system. So beyond just talking about the sort of different mitigations and techniques you need to be using, it also defines the metadata format for distributing the proof that you are doing.
Okay, so it's got actually some proof that, hey, I really did it like this in my build.
Yeah, or at least...
so like an attestation, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. So SLSA recommends you're using in-toto attestations, which is another topic, I think.
That's a whole de facto, though. That I learned, I first heard about that last year at KubeCon North America.
Oh, there you go.
KubeCon Paris.
Yeah.
And there's all these in-toto presentations. Like, this is like brilliant. How have I not heard of this before? But
so within supply chain security, like all kind of attestable events are typically represented as an in-toto attestation. But SLSA recommends one for the build provenance, which kind of describes the build, what happened, who are the actors involved, and what are like the materials and what artifacts were produced. But SLSA kind of goes on other ways to kind of think about the security around the source code management system. So there is a track being built out for that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and there's a new dependency track coming along, which is originally the S2C2F, I think. It's a project from Microsoft around safe consumption around dependencies. I think that's going to be, or if it might already be like announced as the official SLSA dependency track.
We'll probably have to do a future episode on that one.
Probably.
That sounds like another good concept.
Yeah. And then you also have, I said like the source code management system, but there's also a track for the sort of build platform integrity, because you typically only talk about this build was built in a secure way, but what are the security model around the actual build platform? Like, are there remote attestation attesting is running the correct control plane and things like that? So SLSA kind of trickles out to every
It's very multi-level, is what it's looking like. It's very three-dimensional.
It is.
It's not just some two-dimensional matrix of X and Y here. Then I'm doing these. Okay, checkbox. Oh, I'm SLSA 3 for this. Yeah, it's a lot more. Much more rounded, holistic solution.
Yeah, exactly. And a big difference from SLSA version 1, which was released, I think, 1.5 years ago, I could be wrong here, but is that the previous version were kind of clumping everything together. So it was very hard to reach SLSA level 3, as an example, because it put restrictions on both your build platform and your build system, but also the source code management system, which was not really clearly defined, and it was hard to get the required proof from your source code management system. So now they have like spread it out into different tracks that makes it easier to actually achieve something in one area without kind of being dragged by, for instance, not having the required details in another area.
So if I've got all these, like I'm doing the SLSA now, how do I know, where do I go to get the report that SLSA, or how do you know like a vendor or a project is SLSA compliant? What do you do for that?
Yeah, so I think first of all, like SLSA compliance is a little bit hard to speak about because there are no real compliance track. It's more like I'm claiming I'm SLSA level 3, and then maybe we
so
can
it's
have
manual validation at that point, where if a vendor says they do it, you'd have to go ask, hey, can you show me
exactly
some kind of checklist or something?
Right. But otherwise, it's if you look at open source ecosystem, the recommended approach is that you store your SLSA attestations kind of next to the package or binary that you're downloading. So it
could be an OCI repository, I guess, S3 bucket, a data, a blob in Azure.
Yeah, exactly.
Things
so you kind of try to tie the SLSA attestation discovery to the ecosystem you're working on. So as an example, in NPM, we added SLSA build provenance 2 years ago, and they are stored like in the NPM registry, and you can query for a specific version of a package, but you can also say, hey, what are the corresponding attestations for this package via the NPM registry API, and then you can get the SLSA attestations for that as well. That kind of describes the build and the actors involved.
And then hopefully that'll take off to all the other builds that are out there too, with RPMs, I guess.
Exactly.
Or
so Homebrew is on it.
Oh, Homebrew.
Yeah, Homebrew is in public beta for adding SLSA build attestations for all the bottles.
I use Homebrew, yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
All right.
And also PyPI is doing build provenance as well for certain build systems. It's also still in beta, but it's coming. So it's very interesting to see that more and more open source package systems
and all the languages we have out there are starting to adopt it like that. That's really the great benefit of it.
So that's great, because it's kind of hard. So one of the, I'm not going to say weakness of SLSA, because it's not, but it's kind of hard to do SLSA in a transitive way, because you can look at your build, but how are your dependencies being built? And the more and more projects and ecosystems are adopting SLSA, the more and more you can put pressures on your dependencies, like, hey, you need to be SLSA level 2 for me to accept the dependency. But we're not really there yet. We're kind of starting the road on getting more and more ecosystems.
But I mean, then that gives a great visual down the road of knowing too how other things are built in it.
Yeah.
And then as a developer working on a project, you have that ability to look and say, oh, maybe this project's not where we want to go, but this other project that's got the similar functions has a better SLSA level that makes more sense for the type of software you develop. That you have more awareness, a lot more awareness than what you'd have today.
Exactly, because I think ultimately security is about managing risk, and if you have proof of some kind of secure build system, I think that makes the risk assessment easier. So I'm definitely hoping that we're going to see more and more adoption of SLSA in not just open source, but even for commercial vendors, because there is nothing that stops a commercial vendor from using SLSA build provenance and kind of exposing that and sharing it to their customers or buyers.
Yeah, I would hope to see that too, just to have it all on the market, that it's a transparent process like that.
Exactly.
Level playing field.
Yeah, transparency, I think that's the ultimate goal here.
All right, well, that's our talk on SLSA today. We hope you enjoyed the dance. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.